Welcome to Habitly Courses, a production of Manage to Win. Each course is divided into multiple lessons for easy viewing. All are now completely free, so you can watch them on your own or work through them as a team. Please subscribe to this channel, leave a comment, and share your favorite lessons with others. Try to find something that helps you be your best.
Okay, this is David Russell. I'm back again, and we're talking about empathy. We've gone through the 3 lessons, and now what I'd like you to do is try to apply what you've learned. And so we have 4 different exercises here. I'm not going to leave long pauses on the video as you work through the exercises. So stop and start the video as you need to. The first exercise is learning from others. I mean, this is a fun exercise. And basically, what I'd like you to do is you've got a group of people, hopefully. If you're doing this as an individual, you can still think about it, but I'm going to approach these as they are group learning. And so each person's asked to share a situation where another person serving them displayed empathy and then solved their problem. Now, on a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being perfect, I don't think they could have done a better job humanly. And 1 being absolutely terrible, I'm never going back there again. How well did that person solve your problem? And how likable were they to you? So start this conversation. This is the starting point here. I'm going to move on to the next step in the exercise. Next thing I want you to do is I want you to think, what 3 things did they do best? And kind of each of you walk through that and see what similarities there are in the best practices. And the same thing, what 3 things did they do that could have been better, or they did absolutely terribly, okay? So look for similarities, things that you want to consider. What are the things they did poorly that maybe we do poorly and we never want to do? And what are the things they did best that either we already do or we don't do and we want to adopt so we can get better? So go through this portion here. Then I'll go on to the next slide. Okay, and then as we wrap this up, define 3 takeaways. You might have 3 on the positive side, 3 on the negative side, things you don't want to do, okay? But think about it. What can we apply from this? When we're talking about empathy and then how it improves our ability to work with others, particularly in support situations, but otherwise too, think about this, and what do we want to take away? What do we want to test? What do we want to apply? So that's the end of this exercise, the first of 4. This second exercise, I want to talk about stressful situations and how empathy can play in. So once again, what we're trying to do is deal with real situations. And I want you to try to put yourself in your client's shoes, put yourself in their position. And so ask for 1 or more people to describe a typical stressful interaction that they've experienced previously as a customer themselves. So now they're the customer and it's with another company. And what we want to do is name 3 things. You can go further if you want, but what are the 3 things that happened in those situations that maybe you have in common with clients that you serve during a typical week? What are the 3 biggest, or most common situations that would be similar between those 2 experiences when you're a customer versus when someone's a customer of yours? Talk about that, and then I'm going to move on to the next step in the exercise. Okay, now what I'd like you to do is I want you to discuss when you were in that situation serving the customer, was there something troubling you or stressing you out beyond the technology challenge? In other words, the boss was angry, or you had peers that were upset with you for some reason or putting stress on you, or you're backed up on work. We all have this from time to time, right? You're fighting a deadline, you got personal things going on. Were there kind of third-party issues that were making it difficult for you to serve the customer in some way? Talk about that, and then we'll move on to the next slide, and I'll wrap this one up. Okay, and then we're talking about stressful situations, So think about these stress areas that you've experienced as a customer in situations. Remember, we identified in the first step of this exercise. And my question is, as you think through this and you're reversing roles, does that help you get past some of that hot-cold empathy gap? So basically you can better comprehend their stress, what they're dealing with, and maybe you can empathize with them more. Talk about that. And by the way, you can repeat this exercise multiple times using different situations each time that you've experienced as a customer, or maybe things you want to focus on when you're serving customers. This is a great exercise to help you improve your ability to demonstrate empathy, even though you've got some stressful situations happening outside of that direct customer interaction. So that's the end of this exercise number 2. Okay, we'll move on to 3 of 4, the hot-cold empathy gap. So here we go, diving right in. Hey, we're going to start out. You feeling some pressure? So have you ever noticed how hard it is to consider the full desire of a food craving when you're not hungry, right? I mean, if you're not hungry, you're not going to have a food craving. It really doesn't hit. And so this is what researchers call the hot-cold empathy gap. You can look it up online if you want to get more info. And what happens is you can make mistakes in judgment and fail to demonstrate empathy because you're really not understanding how the other person is feeling. And so I'm going to suggest, could one of the issues be that the pressure of other work that maybe needs to be completed be negatively affecting your ability to consistently demonstrate empathy with clients? You got all this other stuff that you got to do. You got deadlines, you've got pressures, you got too much work, too many service tickets, whatever it might be. Think about this, talk about this a little bit, and then I'm going to move on to the next step in this particular exercise. Okay, so let's go this route. Identify a recent client interaction that could have been more positive for the client. And each of you do this in the group. And then think about if you had each of these changes in your behavior, how if this had changed, it might have affected that interaction. So those peers that were angry with you, okay, well, maybe you don't want to let them down, but maybe you can manage that differently. Maybe you're backed up on work. That made things worse. So how can you address that so it's not so negative? Maybe you've got a schedule that's agreed to. You can kind of put it on the shelf, not think about it. If you're fighting a deadline, maybe you can ask for an extension. Maybe you can delegate it to someone else or ask for some help or escalate. If you got a personal issue, maybe you need to take some time to think about that. Take it to a certain level. I don't know. I can't go into personal issues, but you got to find a way to manage it. Other problems. So think about that. Talk about that for a moment, and then let's wrap this one up. Okay, so think about it. When you were in a similar situation, I kind of indicated these. What if you got an approval to delay the work? Remember, an extension. Okay. There were so many people coming after you, asking you different things. Is it a problem when you're feeling pressure from peers in particular? Might be boss, might be your spouse, but turn off instant messaging for a while or texting, your cell phone type of thing. Then, if you intentionally make a decision to demonstrate empathy and active listening to confirm the situation, and then ask that customer for time to investigate the issue and come back to them because you're stressed out. You're not fully there. Rather than let yourself get angry or be unempathetic, confirm to them, you're going to resolve the situation. We're going to get there. Let me do this step and I'll be right back to you. You can do that. Just commit to one step. And then maybe you're going to escalate a little bit more quickly. Maybe there's something else, but talk this through. You're going to find when you talk it through that other people on the team are doing things slightly differently, if not radically differently. Maybe there's a better approach, and you guys can work on a better standard of handling something so that you can be more empathetic with others. Work through this exercise, and then we'll go on to the fourth one. And last but not least, we're going to dive into role playing. So a number of slides here. I'm going to suggest 5 common scenarios for the group to work on. These are client interactions, problems where empathy might be helpful to people in the jobs of, you guys that are participating. So each person, if you got 5 people, or maybe if you've got 3, you're going to do 3 to start, or each person writes 2, write down a situation where empathy would have been helpful or is helpful. Write down the situation on a piece of paper, fold them up so no one knows which one is which, and put them in the center of the table, kind of mix them up. Divide it into 2 teams of 2 to 5 people each, okay? And basically, one team is a client and designates the representative, who is the person to be served by your company, and the other is your company. And they're going to designate the primary person that's going to interact with the client. And by the way, you need at least one other person who's going to be the judge, the impartial judge type of thing. Or you can do 3 teams and one team is the judge and you alternate with the judges. That's another alternative to do it. Take a moment to do that, then move on to the next slide. All right, here's the objective. We want the group that's playing the client to try to create a situation where the company person and or their team stops showing empathy or does not show empathy for a moment. So each time the client succeeds, they win 1 point. Each time the company representative reasonably demonstrates empathy, the company gets 1 point. The winning team gets a free lunch or other prize or just, having some fun, right? So think about that. This is how it's going to work, and you got to kind of plan things out. How are you going to make that person not show empathy? And by the way, you got to be more creative than just start yelling and screaming at somebody. That's not what we're trying to do. All right. Each team silently notes parts of the conversation where their representative has won a point, and the judge is also keeping track. And at the end, basically the judge is going to explain their assignment of points, and you can debate them if you want to, but the judge gets to make the final decision. So here we go. Play the game. And the key is stay in your role. Okay? Don't laugh, don't complain, don't, come out of role. Stay in the role because that's where it has the most value. Now, keep in mind, the client can bring in another member of their team to add to the problem or provide more information to the company representative at any time or complicate things. All right, as long as it's based on reality, don't go off into the stratosphere here. And by the same way, the same thing can happen on the company side. They can bring somebody in. And so, you can escalate, you can do different things to bring it in, but stay in your role, really important. So go ahead, play the game, put a time limit on it, maybe 5 minutes, see how it goes, and see what you can learn. Remember, the objective is for the company people is to stay empathetic, and for the client to do things that make the client person stop being empathetic. And so you can record it if you want to. You want to listen to it afterwards. And at the end, you're going to discuss lay out the points, that type of thing. And when you're discussing improvement, somebody can improve in a way. Do it empathetically. Hey, right? Do it nicely, encouragingly. No one's going to be perfect at this. All right? But there is something to be learned with role playing. Role playing is very valuable when you stay in the role. And the objective is to learn through it. So have some fun with it, push with it, enjoy it, and learn from it. Okay, those are our 4 exercises. There's one more piece to the empathy course. That's our conclusion. And hopefully you passed all 3 of the exams on the 3 lessons. Thank you very much. Bye for now.